Hello friends, welcome to Wow IS. This is the fourth part of the May 2023 current affairs. In this we are going to cover the remaining part of economy as well as we are going to finish with the security aspect. In our initiative we are going to summarize the Vision monthly magazines for this year from April 2023 to February 2024 so that you can effectively cover the current affairs in the minimum time. And to help you out with that, we are going to provide this initiative along with videos at a very nominal price of 599 rupees. To enroll in the course, you can directly pay through this QR code and you can send the receipt at our mail ID. Or you can use the link provided under the video to subscribe in the course. So let's start with today's video, today's topics first of all. The first topic here is food storage in India. Now, Union Cabinet has approved an interministerial committee which is going to look into the world's largest grain storage plan in the cooperative sector, and it has been constituted under Minister of Corporation. Now, there are primary agriculture credit societies which are at the village level and they provide short term lending, which is also known as crop loans, and they are headed by state cooperative banks at the state level. So these primary agriculture credit societies are basically they help in the credit facilities to the farmers. Next is food grain management in India. So India has a total production of 3,100 lakh tons of food grain a year, and the whole procedure of procurement, storage, transportation, and bulk allocation of food grains to the state government is done by FCI, which comes under central government. This chart shows the India's annual production of the food grains. If you see, this line is showing how the annual food grains are being produced. So currently we have around 315.7 million tons of annual production of the food grains. Then if we talk about oil seeds, so this year the oil seed production was around 40 million tons, and for the pulses the production was around 20 to 25 million tons. So this graph is showing you all the three: food grains, oilseed and pulses. Next is why we need an effective food grain storage system. So it is talking about what are the lacunae in our food storage system. First of all, to develop forward and backward linkages. There is lack of local storage facility at the farm level. The storage management is improper and is done in an unscientific manner. Almost 80% of the warehousing facilities are not mechanized, so it is done manually. Now there are gaps in the number of storage facilities. Indian current godown facilities can store up to 47% of the total produce. So that means 53% of the food grains do not get a proper storage facility. That's why the wastage is high. Then if we talk about cold storage, so the majority of the cold storage is limited to only few states: Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Punjab and Maharashtra. What are government's other initiatives for augmenting grain storage capacity? First one is National Policy on Handling and Storage of Food Grains 2000. The objective was to reduce the losses in the storage and transit process at the farm and commercial levels. And its other objective was to modernize the handling, storage and transportation system of food grains in India. Second is Gramin Bhandaran Yojana. The subsidy will be provided for construction and renovation of rural godowns in a scientific manner. Third is Warehousing Development and Regulation Act of 2007. It made the warehousing receipts a negotiable instrument. Negotiable means that you can go and you can get credit on these warehouse receipts. Next is Private Entrepreneurs Guarantee Scheme or PEG scheme. The objective was to augment the storage capacity of FCI in PPP mode. That means private players will be invited for developing the storage facilities. Then last is PM Kisan Sampada Yojana. It has one of the elements as cold storage facilities, specialized packaging units and warehousing facilities. So it has a provision for development of these three things. Now next article is Cities 2.0. It is part of the Smart City Mission and its full form is City Investments to Innovate, Integrate and Sustain It is a sub-component of, as I told you, Smart City mission. It was launched, the first Cities 1.0 was launched in 2018. So what is the object? It is a 12 city level projects will be there. The capacity development activities will be done in the state of Odisha, and it will help, it will lead, it will promote integrated urban management at the national level. So this is mainly focused on the state of Odisha. It is a joint program of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs India, then Agency France de Development AFD, then Kreditanstalt für Wiederverbau KfW of Germany, and European Union and National Institute of Urban Affairs NIUA. The program is being coordinated and managed by Program Management Unit at NIUA New Delhi. The aim of the objective is to assist selected cities in develop and implement innovative and sustainable urban infrastructure projects. There will be thematic focus areas like sustainable mobility, public open spaces, urban e-commerce and ICT, social and organizational innovation in low-income settlements. The phase 2 of Cities 2.0, the additional objectives are supporting competitively selected project promoting a circular economy with a focus on integrated waste management at city level, climate oriented reform action at state level, and institutional strengthening and knowledge dissemination as at national level. So all the three levels, city, state and national level, they have been given individual focus areas. Then the 18 cities will be selected for this project, and a total funding of 1,760 crores from AFD and KfW, and a technical assistance of rupees 106 crore from European Union will be provided. Now the news in short: surplus transfer RBI. RBI is yet to transfer. RBI will be transferring 87,416 crore rupees to Union government in the year 2022-23. There is a 188% jump from the 2021-2022 surplus transfer of 30,000 rupees. Now, why this is done? RBI first of all does not pay any income tax. It just transfers the surplus to the government, and it is provided under Section 47 Allocation of Surplus Profit of RBI Act 1934. Earlier, RBI used to keep a major chunk with itself for the contingency fund and asset development fund. Now, the Malegaon committee was in 2013 gave recommendation, and under the revised economic capital framework 2014-15 prepared by Bimal Jalan committee, the transfer of surplus to government was increased. So this is done in accordance with these two committees. Rupees 2,000 notes has been withdrawn, and this note was introduced in 2016 under Section 24 of the RBI Act of 1934. The withdrawal is a part of RBI's clean note policy currency. Next is report on currency and finance RCF 2022-23. It is released by RBI, and it is examining micro-financial implications of climate change in India. The report says that around 3 to 10% of GDP is lost every year, will be lost every year by 2100 due to climate change. Up to 4.5% of GDP could be at risk by 2030 owing to the lost labor hours from extreme heat and humidity conditions. Next, climate change in financial sector. Public sector banks will be more prone to climate risk as compared to private banks. And annual green financing requirement could be about 2.5% of GDP to address the infrastructure gaps caused by climate event. Climate event means flood, drought, something like that. Next is increase in gold holdings. RBI and other banks, central banks are ramping up their gold holdings, and since 2010, central banks have been the net buyers of gold on an annual basis. India is among the 10 largest official buyers of gold for 2 decades, 1999 till 2021. Now, RBI's gold reserve stands at 794.64 metric tons in fiscal year 2023. The increase has been nearly 5% over fiscal 2022. What is the reason for this increasing the holdings? First of all, to balance the foreign exchange reserves. Second is the hedging against fiat currencies, because gold offers a hedge against the eroding value of currencies due to inflation. Gold has a more stability. Then it also helps in diversifying the portfolio of the RBI. What are the RBI's, what are the components of RBI's forex reserve? I think you know these things. So these you can directly read. This is a basic part of your economics. Then what is other related news? Reserve Bank of India's total gold reserves has reached a new high to around 800 tons. Global forex reserves held by central bank comprises currencies like dollar, euro, pound, other currencies, gold, IMF, currency quotas called special drawing rights. Next is expected credit loss. Banks have sought a 1 year extension from RBI to implement the expected credit loss framework. This framework was released in January 2023. ECL or Extended Credit Loss Framework is a method to assess and estimate losses on credit given by bank before an asset turns banks. Now, each bank is going to classify the financial assets into three stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. In the first stage, those financial assets will be kept which do not have a significant increase in the credit risk or are with a low credit risk at the reporting date. Stage 2 is they have a significant increase in the credit risk but don't have an objective evidence of impairment. And third one are those which are having objective evidence of impairment at the reporting time. So now this new framework has to be implemented by the banks. Next is angel tax. It was introduced in 2012 and it refers to tax levied on the capital raised by unlisted companies. Unlisted companies means those companies which are not listed on the stock exchange. They may be startups or they may be existing companies. Before 2023 budget proposals, those investments received from the resident investments were applicable for the angel tax. Now, Financial Bill 2023 has extended its applicability to non-resident investors as well. That means if foreign funding is coming to the unlisted companies, they will also be under the ambit of angel tax. Now, PLI 2.0 for IT hardware scheme. It is released by MITI or Ministry of IT and Information Technology. India's share in global electronic manufacturing has grown from 1.2% in 2014 to 3.75% in financial year 2021-22. Now, total production is about 3.35 lakh crore with an additional investment of 2,430 crores in electronic manufacturing. It will lead to generation of 75,000 additional direct jobs. Next is Vivad Se Vishwas 1 scheme, MOF. Micro, small and medium enterprises will be provided relief for the COVID-19 period. The scheme was announced in the Union Budget of 2023-24. It is launched by Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance. Under this, ministries will refund performance security, bid security and liquidated damages forfeited or deducted during COVID-19 pandemic. So it will be a great boost to the MSME sector. Next is assistance to medical devices cluster for common facilities scheme. To strengthen the medical devices cluster by providing financial assistance and to strengthen and establish more testing laboratories for the medical devices. India is the fourth largest Asian medical devices market after Japan, China and South Korea. This scheme comes under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizer and Department is Department of Pharmaceuticals. The tenure of the scheme is from 2023-24 to 2026-27. Now next is e-appeals scheme. Central Board of Direct Taxes has notified an e-appeals scheme for 2023 to reduce pendency of appeals at the level of income tax commissioners. What is about this scheme? Aggrieved SSC can spend certain orders before Joint Commissioner passed by an assessing officer below the rank of Joint Commissioner appeals. Interstate Transmission System ISTS charges. Ministry of Power waives interstate transmission system charges for 3 projects: offshore wind projects, green hydrogen projects and ammonia projects for 25 years. Now, there are certain provisions. These provisions include for the offshore wind projects commissioned before 31st December 2032, 25 years remission will be provided. Next is complete waiver for the green hydrogen or green ammonia production unit using renewable energy, pumped or storage battery storage system or any hybrid combination, and this should be done on or before 31st December 2030. So these charges have been removed. So it releases. So it allows for it reduces financial burden on these units. Now next is ease of doing business in telecom and broadcasting sector. This has been released. These recommendations has been released by TRAI, and India is the world's second largest telecommunication market. 117 crore subscribers and 70 crores active internet users are in India. This data may be helpful for you. Next is one station one product scheme. Ministry of Railway has launched one station one product scheme over Indian Railways to promote vocal for local vision and create additional income opportunities for marginalized section. Under the scheme, OSOP outlets at the railway station are allotted for showcasing, selling and giving high visibility to indigenous or local products. These stalls are designed by the National Design Institute for Uniformity. They are specific to that place and include artifacts made by indigenous tribes, handlooms by local weavers, etc. Next is Center for Processing Accelerated Corporate Exit or C-Space. This is done by Ministry of Corporate Affairs MCA, and its objective is to provide hassle-free filing, timely and process-bound striking of companies from MCA register. The center is situated in Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, which is located in Manesar, Haryana. The next is Harit Sagar and Green Port Guidelines 2023. These are released by Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways and Waterways. The objective is to align with working with nature concept and minimizing impact on the biotic component of the harbor ecosystem. Now ports meet around 60% of electricity needs via renewables by 2030 and 90% by 2047. So this is the first objective. Ports must have at least one LNG bunkering station by 2030. Electric vehicle charging stations in and around the port should be set up by 2025. So basically what it is doing, it is actually going for renewable energy. Next is Jawaharlal Nehru Port JNP. Now this is important for you. According to the World Bank's Logistic Performance Index of 2023, the turnaround time at the JNP port is just 22 hours. Now India is now among the top performers at the world level. Next is NYMEX WTI crude oil and natural gas futures contracts. NSE has launched these rupee denominated future contracts in the commodity derivative market. West Texas Intermediate is a light sweet crude oil extracted from wells of USA, and it serves as one of the main global oil benchmark. So this NYMEX, it is released for WTI. Now other benchmarks are Brent crude, which is Dubai or Oman based. Next is Futures of Job Report 2023. This was released by World Economic Forum. This is the fourth edition. First edition was released in 2016, and it is a bi-annual series which explores how jobs and skill will evolve over next 5 years, that is 2023-27. It tracks labor market impact on fourth industrial revolution, green and energy transitions and supply chain shifts. The key findings are 44% of the worker skills will be disrupted in next 5 years. 61% of Indian companies think broader application of ESG standards will drive job growth, followed by increased adoption of new technologies and broadening digital access. 23% of jobs in next 5 years are expected to change, and strongest net job creation effect is driven by green transition, broader application of ESG standards and localization of the supply chain. Now with this we have completed the economy portion. Now we are going to move along the security aspect. First one is international terrorism. Now, Indian Defence Minister has called on SCO or Shanghai Cooperation Organization to eliminate terrorism and hold those who aid it accountable. What is terrorism? It is a forceful and unlawful method to achieve the desired goals and effects amongst every sphere of human life, be it economic, political, or social. In broad sense, terrorism is the antithesis of independence, rendering it meaningless. Next is factors that cause terrorism. First is ideological cause. It is often driven by religious or political beliefs which can motivate an individual to engage in terrorism. Then ethno-nationalism and separatism. Then globalization, it has facilitated terrorism through increased mobility, communication and availability of widespread targets and audience. Then terrorism is also being used as a foreign policy. For example, Pakistan is using it in Kashmir. Poor societies with weak state structures also allow for breeding of terrorism. Then international injustice, if happens, it also inculcates a feeling which can lead to terrorism. For example, Syria and Iraq, the rise of Islamic State. Now, what are the initiatives that have been taken? First is United Nations Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy (GCTS). It was adopted by General Assembly resolution in 2006, and it is a unique global instrument that aims to enhance national, regional, and international efforts to counter terrorism. It consists of four pillars. You can refer to the infographics provided. Then UNSC Counter Terrorism Committee (CTC) is tasked with monitoring implementation resolution of 1373/2001. The resolution requested countries to implement measures to enhance ability to counter terrorist activities at home, region and around the world. Then Global Counter-Terrorism Forum (GCTF). India is a member of an informal, apolitical, multilateral platform that facilitates open discussions among stakeholders, bringing together experts and practitioners. Then United Nations Countering Terrorist Travel Program. It is a flagship global initiative of the United Nations Office of the Counter-Terrorism (UNOCT) that assists member states in building their capabilities to detect and counter terrorists. This is achieved by using international databases like Interpol database. The next is Financial Action Task Force (FATF). It is an international standard setter for anti-money laundering and countering the financing of the terrorism to build and implement international standards in this regard. Next is SCO's Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure or RATS. Its basic objective is to develop and strengthen cooperation with international and regional organizations to consolidate efforts towards counter-terrorism. Then Global Terrorism Index, it is produced by Institute for Economics and Peace (IEP). It is a comprehensive study and analysis the impact of terrorism. Next is Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism (CCIT). It intends to criminalize all forms of international terrorism, denial of the safe havens, access to funds and arms to the terrorists and the financiers of the terrorism. Next is it is proposed by India on 17 December 1996 in the United Nations General Assembly (UNGA). What is the way forward? First of all, the state capacity needs to be enhanced to prevent and combat terrorism. Then strengthen the capacity of the existing institutions, identify the gaps, and bring in reforms and modernization in the border management system. The focus on the role of regional and international organizations in the addressing state capacity, share best practices and address gaps in providing technical assistance, support to improve compliance with international norms and obligations, and facilitate the implementation of international conventions and protocol. The next is integrate gender into counter-terrorism. First of all, gender perspective is required to be included. Next, women and girls are victims of terrorism. Women are also perpetuators, facilitators, and supporters of terrorism. Also, women as agents in preventing and countering terrorism. So the woman has an important role here. Next is ensure protection of human rights. That is very important. Then next is promote public awareness and cooperation is required, raising public awareness about the threat and about the universal counter-terrorism instruments. Then establishment of public-private partnership between state authorities and private sector, civil society. Also, civil society must be engaged while developing resolutions on counter-terrorism. The next is drug menace in India. Then India has launched an operation known as Operation Samudra Gupt. and it has been launched by NCB in January 2022 to intercept contraband that is brought in India through the marine channel. It is a part of Union government's plan to make India drug free by 2047. So India is between Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle. Golden Crescent involves Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Golden Triangle includes the South Asian countries which are Burma, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam. These are the countries which are under Golden Triangle. These are the two, you can say, those which produce those areas where the production of drugs is being done. Why there is drug menace in India? First of all, the geographical location of India. It is sandwiched between Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle. Next is all Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. Around 70% of the total illegal drug trade is smuggled into India through these routes. Couriers, postal service are also used for smuggling. A 300% increase has been in 2020 and 200% in 2021. Then we have porous border, so that also leads to increase in the drug menace in India. Then the dark net technologies like dark net are being used for drug trafficking. Cryptocurrency payments and doorstep deliveries have increased the footprint of drugs. Then demand due to contrasting economic factors is also there. Employment on one hand and availability of easy money on the other has led to devastating rise of substance abuse and drug addiction. Then challenges faced by investigation agencies because there is lack of intelligence sharing between central and state agencies and more focus on apprehending drug distributors. Then important one is NCB or Narcotics Control Bureau. It comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. It was established in 1986 under Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985 (NDPS) Act. Its mandate is to coordinate actions by various offices under NDPS Act, Custom Act, Drug and Cosmetic Act, implementation of the obligation in respect of countermeasures against illicit traffic under various international conventions. Then coordination of action taken by other concerned ministries, departments and organizations with respect to drug abuse. And it has all powers of civil court, trying a suit under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. Now, what are the other initiatives to tackle the drug menace? National Action Plan for Drug Demand Reduction (NAP-DDR) for 2018-25. The objective is aimed at reduction of adverse consequences of drug abuse through a multi-pronged strategy. The Nasha Mukt Bharat campaign, it was launched in 2020 in 272 identified districts. It is a three-pronged attack combining supply curb, outreach and awareness and demand reduction efforts by the Department of Social Justice and Empowerment and treatment through the Health Department. The next is India is signatory to following UN territories and conventions, that is UN Single Convention on Narcotic Drug 1961, Convention on Psychotropic Substances 1971, Convention on Illicit Traffic in Narcotics, Drug and Psychotropic Substances 1998. What are the steps taken? Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985. It is the principal legislation to regulate the operations of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. It provides a stringent framework for punishing offences related to illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances through imprisonment and forfeiture of property. Section 27A of the Act prescribes the punishment for financing and harboring offenders. Then a joint coordination, a narco coordination center NCODE has been set up by Ministry of Home Affairs for effective coordination among various law enforcement agencies. The Multi-Agency Maritime Security Group MAMSG was set up under National Security Council Secretariat to monitor smuggling of drugs through sea routes. MAMSG provides seamless coordination between agencies responsible for protecting maritime interest. Then cooperation with other countries, increasing NCB capacity. Earlier it has 3 regional offices, Delhi, Mumbai and Kolkata. Now it is expanded with the new regional offices like Amritsar, Chennai into Amritsar and Chennai. Next is launch of Nidan. Nidan means National Integrated Database on Arrested Narco Offenders Portal. It is first of its kind of database of arrested narcotics offenders and has been made operational for use by various central and state prosecution agencies. Next we have is news in short. First is thermobarbaric bomb. It consists of a fuel container with two separate explosive charges. When the container hits its target, the first explosive charge opens and container widely scatters the fuel mixture as a cloud. The second container then detonates the cloud, resulting in huge fireball, a massive blast wave, and a vacuum which sucks up all surrounding oxygen. So the impact is brutal. There is no international law specifically banning its use. Next is Iran has launched a fourth generation of its liquid fueled ballistic missile named Kibar. The range is 2000 kilometers and it can carry a payload of 1500 kilograms. Next is INSV Tarini. It has completed a trans-ocean intercontinental voyage. It was a 188-day voyage from Goa to Rio de Janeiro via Cape Town and back. Now, the Navy is planning to send a woman to circumnavigate the globe solo. Earlier in 2017 expedition, Navika Sagar Parikrama was the first ever Indian circumnavigation of the globe by the all-woman crew. Next is what are the exercises that were in use. First is Samudra Shakti 23. It is between India and Indonesia. Then Jal Rahat. It was jointly conducted by Indian Army, SSB, National and State Disaster Response Forces, District Disaster Management Authority and police representatives at the Hagram Bridge in Manas River in Assam. So basic objective was ki if any flood type situation comes, so how these agencies are going to coordinate with each other. Then Sudarshan Shakti 2023, it was conducted by Sapt Shakti Command of Indian Army along the western borders in Rajasthan and Punjab. Next is Maritime Exercise Al Mohaid Al Hind 23. It was between Indian Navy and Royal Saudi Naval Force. Then Asian India Maritime Exercise AIMA 2023. Inaugural exercise was held at Harbour Phase. The Harbour Phase of the exercise was conducted at Changi Naval Base of Singapore Navy, and Sea Phase was conducted in South China Sea. So there are two phases. One is Harbour Phase, that is at the port, and second is the high seas or at the sea phase. The aim was to promote maritime cooperation and enhancing trust, friendship and confidence among Asian and Indian navies. So with this we have completed the security aspect also. So it's over for the day now. Tomorrow we are going to start with the environment portion. So thank you very much and please join the initiative. The link is provided in the under the video in the explanation part.